Hello, everybody. It's that time again for Career Alchemy live broadcast. I am your host, Lori Swanson, the CEO of Inspire Tech and the founder of Career Alchemy Academy, a membership community for women in technology who are looking for recreation of their careers in a way that feels fully aligned with who they are today, who they are becoming in a container of support and connections and ideas and I don't know, just magic. We're talking about alchemy, and it's today's conversation that I want to have. I guess it's a one-sided conversation at this point, but I always welcome your DMs after these if you have questions, and absolutely if you want to schedule a call with me and talk about where you're at with your career, where you're thinking about going with it, the roadblocks, and how I might be able to help you, and or the community inside of Career Alchemy Academy might be just the support you're looking for. So please message me on whatever channel, if you're on YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook, Instagram, just message me and I'll send you a link to schedule a call. But talking about alchemy, mentioning alchemy, that's what I want to talk about today. It's the alchemical process of career heartbreak. So what made me think of this particular topic was, for some reason, I was thinking about alchemy, and I was thinking about the process of alchemy and how it's not all, rainbows and butterflies. It's painful in some ways. It's, you know, it's like the phoenix rising out of the ashes experience, right? And so I was thinking about some of my past, what I would call alchemical processes, alchemical events that I had gone through that had taken me from who I was to someone different, stronger, wiser. But that process in the middle, I have to say, I can see why we love to stay in our comfort zone sometimes. So what had occurred, and I have talked about this, I believe, before, but in a different perspective. So there was a point where I was dating a guy, we'd been dating for a while, and all of a sudden, we had worked together and he didn't show up for work, which was weird. And then he wasn't like, returning my calls. I went over to his place and he wasn't there. I finally talked to his sister and she's like, "Oh my gosh, didn't he tell you he moved in with our other sister who lived 3 hours away?" And I'm like, "What? This is, like we spent a lot of time together. We really seemed we were very open about our affection, right? And we liked each other and we had fun together. And I was really, it made zero sense to me. I just did not understand it. And so I, reached out, called his sister's house, and eventually talked to him. And it was brief. He was not forthcoming. He couldn't even give me an explanation about what was going on for him. Of course, I was like, did I do something? Are you just not that into me anymore? And he's like, "No, it's not that." He goes, "I just need space. I need a pause." And I'm thinking to myself, self? Uh, I don't get this pause thing. Like, it wasn't something we'd mutually discussed and agreed upon. So I was not there. And so I actually, I just went, I am in sales. I went after it, right? I was sending him notes, calling. I eventually actually drove down and just showed up at his place and, had another conversation. And it wasn't, I was there, I spent the night there. It wasn't, at the end of it all, there was no resolution. We we were just not on the same page. And I left there, and as I'm driving home, I'm thinking to myself, this isn't a pause. It's not something temporary. Like, it's done, you know? And on his part. And then there were some other circumstances that eventually it was done on my part as well. But I recognized that I was really I mean, I didn't call it that at this point, obviously, but in hindsight, that I was in the alchemy of change, that I was in a process that felt horrible. But eventually, on the other side, when we get to the other side of an alchemical process, an event, a transformation, it became one of the best things that ever happened to me. And um, I would, if I were a betting person, and I am, I would say that most people would agree that even though they didn't choose something, even though it sucked in the middle, um, ultimately the transformation that occurred, um, and especially related to career, made them uh, stronger, wiser, right? Because alchemy by its nature, as I mentioned, is like a phoenix, that story of the phoenix rising out of the ashes, right? Where something's been destroyed and something new emerges. And that's really, again, in hindsight, at the time, not so much, but in hindsight, something new, better, stronger did emerge, me, a new me. And what's left behind was what was no longer needed, what I no longer needed. In my case, like, um, the dross, that's, when you think about alchemy, it's the dross. It's what is no longer needed. And I've seen the same thing happen in people's careers as a recruiter, owning my own recruiting firm and talking to many, many, many people who come to me because they've been laid off, fired, had a big announcement that the company's relocating, or there's been this huge leadership change, their team is changing, their role is changing, completely blindsides them. Um, though I would argue there probably were some signs, and there probably were in the relationship as well, but I'll get there. Because that's one of the things that we can do to make this process, to have the benefits of an alchemical process without all of the pain and the angst and all of that. So in any case, people are coming to me, and they're feeling the same way I did by what was happening in their organizations or to their careers. As far as they just never saw it coming, they felt blindsided, betrayed, confused, heartbroken, right? In some cases, so no surprise that, like me, their first response was not, "Oh, this is wonderful news. Thank you," right? I can't wait to see what's next. It just doesn't happen like that often. So what happens instead is they're fighting for the dross. They're fighting for what was, like I did with this relationship. They're holding on tighter. They're resisting. They're sending the emails. They're talking to all the former colleagues, trying to get, so what's happening inside the organization? What's happening over there? Or if they're still employed, they're trying to still get into, like, who's doing what, and how does this impact me, and how can I, position myself? So they're creating positioning statements so that the leadership will either keep them, promote them, rehire them. They are, anyone in their organization that'll go out for coffee, they'll spend their time and energy doing that. But you can feel it's all from a place of fear, right? Of self-protection, I guess, but really resistance to change. And they'll turn that fear, that doubt, the resistance, the anger inward, replaying what they should have done, what they shouldn't have done. Self beat up, becomes shooting on themselves, all of those things they're doing more often. And it's just can be a really awful time when you're at between the the inciting alchemical incident and the emerging of you through a transformation, stronger, wiser, um, more confident, all those things. So does any of this resonate? Wave your virtual hand, wave your real hand if it resonates with you. Because when you're in the alchemical process of destruction, and I mean, like I use that word purposefully because it feels like everything is falling apart. It's brutal, right? No mantra, and I'm all about the mantras, but um, pep talks, can really make this easier. You have to go through the fire. You just have to. And the less you resist it and the more you accept it and the more that you, um, choose to let go of the dross easily and learn from the process, um, the better. Because but often the transformation. You might even like consciously be like, oh, a transformation is occurring here, but that doesn't mean it feels any better, right? Doesn't make it. Um, the destruction is going to be painful. It's just, the degrees of painfulness. Like there are ways to reduce that. But still, that's the fire that's forging you, right? That's strengthening you, that's creating greater clarity for you. Um, and in my case, in the relationship, that was the catalyst for me. That was the inciting incident. And I did many things. That was my first real foray into therapy. That was when I began, in reflection, I'm like, I did have some signs that some stuff was going on with him. But I didn't really, address it. I avoided, any small and big elephants in the room, just crossing my fingers. And I've heard this, if you've ever been part of a layoff that you felt took you by surprise, in hindsight, almost everyone will be like, well, I did know, I knew that there was conversations happening. I knew that some people had been talking about an acquisition. I saw the economy, taking a downturn, all of those things. So, but we ignore them. We just hope nothing happens. And that's really what creates even more pain during the alchemy process. So, but I stopped. I think a really key one is I stopped fighting for the wrong things, right? Um, for the things that no longer would serve me. I really, began to tune into my inner wisdom, and trust it, but also gaining the more clarity on what did I really want out of a relationship. What were my kind of, you know, uh, boundaries and expectations, like these things started to be formed in that juicy center of everything um, burning away that was no longer useful for me. And, really tuning into not only the inner wisdom, but the outer signs that were happening. And so I became, like I said, stronger and wiser, more grounded, more clear about what I would and wouldn't accept. And that is the real gift of this process, is that kind of purifies. I mean, it just gets rid of what's no longer needed. I mean, even when I think about dross, um, that dross may have actually been something that was very useful for a period of time. And then you keep holding onto it and continuing to think that that is, maybe what got you to a place in your career. So it's going to keep working for you. And then you're ignoring the fact that it isn't getting the same results. It isn't feeling fun for you anymore. It isn't, it isn't uh, needed like it used to be. that it's taking up space, but you're ignoring all of that. And it requires then this alchemical process to burn it away, to like no longer give you the choice to hang on to it, to give you nothing to hang on. It's too hot to handle, right? It's just burning away. And so if you are standing in kind of the alchemical fire of your career, I've got some ideas for you. Uh, I, you know, I think about, okay, so what are some things that in reflection, what I could have done? What are some things that I can offer you if you're feeling that same way? You're feeling like this took me by surprise, or even if you're like, okay, I've been like an ostrich in the sand a little bit. I am aware, I do know that I need to start the job search, that I need to start having some conversations inside of my organization to start repositioning myself. Like there's some actions that I really should be taking that I've been avoiding. Um, these are things that I think might help you, my ideas. So the first one is what I call the burning ball. So no surprise, but I really want you to name the dross. What are those things that you need to let go of? What are those skills that no longer are serving you? What are those um, in checking in with yourself is really important to see what feels expansive and exciting and what doesn't anymore. And it really requires us to challenge the idea that because it worked for us, it's still worth holding on to. Like it's a big deal to let go of some of, like managing a team where they just don't need as many managers inside your organization, but your individual contributions can be very powerful for them if you're willing to let go of that, not just for the organization, but you're also noticing that, that the team has been very draining for you. Yet you think that that's kind of it's nice to say you're managing a global team or something and that external validation, but ultimately that could be dross, right? That could be something to let go. So you want to name it, and then you want to let it go. So I suggest just writing down the dross on a sheet of paper, all those beliefs, those habits, those attachments that you want to release, and including the self-blame, the self-doubt, all of that, just, the I'm not enough, so if you have some terms like that you've been saying to yourself, just write it on this paper, and then we're going to safely burn the paper outside in your fire pit. And here in Chicago, it's a perfect time for a fire pit. And just burn it, just let it go, and say something like, you served me very well, or you didn't serve me at all, and I'm no longer, but I'm being called to something new. So thank you for that which has served me. Thank you for that which has protected me. Um, and but I'm being called somewhere new. And this, by the lighting the fire of this, you're releasing it and you're allowing for that something new to come forward. The second thing to do is what I call the clarity list. So the burning bowl, then the clarity list. So this is, on one side, again, paper exercise. On one side, I want you to list all the things that that you're done with. Micromanagement, scarcity thinking, overworking, a certain type of industry, perhaps, just stuff you're done with, either, from your past experiences in your career, from your current experiences, just anything that just doesn't resonate, that just hasn't felt good. And you're just done with it. And then on the other side, what are you ready for? More freedom, more creativity, more fun is, one of mine, more responsibility, more team, more, visibility, like whatever it is, but write that down on the other side of the paper, and feel the energy shifts from that which you are, done with, and that which you are ready for. And just notice again, because I'm always talking about this we work so hard at trying to figure things out, when in fact that our body and what I call the divine line of expanded divine support that is available to us, if we just relax and we start to feel what expands us and what feels more joyful and what feels more fun, and then following that and letting the rest of it go, right? So you're done with this and now you're ready for that, tuning into this list of possibilities, and then just, there's nothing else you need to do when with this clarity exercise. There's just nothing else you need to do with this list other than you can put it in an envelope, you can mail it to yourself, you can write on, put it away somewhere and open it up in 3 months, whatever you want to do with it. But it isn't like necessarily creating more to-dos for yourself. It's more of an expression of who you are becoming, this transformation that's happening, that's going to open up things that open you up, right? It's going to open up these possibilities. And then you're just going to trust and allow, right? And then the third one is what I call the spirit check-in, right? So that's, it's really everything we're doing, from burning stuff away to, literally writing down everything we're done with and creating things we're ready for, and then trusting and allowing that to start to unfold. And then that spirit check-in, that's where we literally make time to ask for support, to get the guidance. I have a prayer that I say. I've said it here on LinkedIn Live, and I say it a lot. And it came from someone who had a near-death experience. They heard this in their communication when they were, technically dead, scientifically dead, but their spirit lives on, right? And it's traveling here. And I've just modified it to what feels more right for me. And it's essentially that we're always loved, that we're safe and held, that we're guided and supported, and that we're never, never, never alone. And when I think about the guided and supported part to this third idea, the burning bowl, the clarity list, and now this sort of spiritual check-in with your higher self, that you will be guided somewhere. That list that we just were talking about, where you were saying what you're ready for, let's just trust that you're being guided there, that guidance has said, this is what you're ready for. And then the other part of that sentence is that what you're guided towards, you will have the support, the resources, the connections to fulfill it, right? And that you're never, never, never alone. So spiritual check-in number 3, idea number 3 is just to sit quietly, place your hand in sort of that solar plexus region, or, this core or heart center, and listen not only for words that might rise up, but for any subtle peace or warmth or quiet knowing. And let that be the breadcrumb that you follow, the guidance that you need, and then trusting and allowing the guidance to come in, and then trusting and allowing for the support to make it happen. Nothing is out of bounds. Nothing is out of bounds. No matter where you start, nothing is out of bounds. So if you're standing in that fire, let me tell you, you don't have to walk through it alone. You reach out to me, like I said at the top of this, DM me. I don't know, do they call it direct messaging in all the platforms? I don't know. Email me, message me, go out to my website and send me a message, whatever it is, and we will schedule a call and we'll talk a little bit more about where you're at and what might be what you can imagine might be on the other side of the in between the alchemical um, burning away of the dross, and then we will create those the what you're ready for list, and then we're going to make it happen, and we'll do that together. So let's chitty chat, let's talk, and remember that the burning away is allowing for what's ready to be born, what's ready to emerge. And the alchemy of career heartbreak, of love relationship heartbreak, whatever it is, always leaves you stronger, clearer, more aligned with your true self, your true nature. The part of the reason that that forest fires happen, and let's just talk about naturally occurring forest fires that aren't necessarily due to global warming, but you know what I'm talking about. But they're meant to happen so that they can get rid of too much growth, and can allow for new growth to occur and allow for seeding to happen and things like that. And so it's the same sort of idea, is that we want to let go, stop resisting, um, stop staying in our comfort zone uh, of what is no longer useful to us. We want to burn it all away. We want to rise out of the ashes, transformed, lighter, wiser, and ready for what's next. So let's do it all together. And I was just talking with someone about this. When we do this, when you feel more engaged with your work, when you feel more aligned with your true nature, when you're experiencing this expansive um, energy, and you are really leaning into trusting life unconditionally, knowing you're always safe and held, knowing that you're guided, like you're receiving this guidance inside, outside, and with the guidance is always support to move you forward. Then and that you're of course never alone in it. When you really do that, the energy you're putting out in the world is the most important part of all of this. That you are just one single individual human being is capable of creating an energy, a ripple of expansive, positive, calm, centered, joyful energy that cannot help but change your circumstances, but the circumstances for those closest to you, and the circumstances for those further out, because it ripples and ripples and engages and changes and transforms all of us, and we all rise out of that, rise out of the fire, becoming stronger and more beautiful, wiser and more clear, and more ourselves. So that's it for today. Peace everywhere, peace. And I look forward to talking with you. If the time is right, I am here. That's that. That is